There comes a moment in life when the noise around you grows so loud that you can barely hear your own heartbeat. The world will tell you that love is everything, that connection defines your worth, and that your value depends on who stands beside you. But real growth begins when you no longer let someone else define your peace, when you stop trading your inner calm for temporary comfort, when you finally decide that your own soul deserves the same care you once gave away freely. That's when transformation begins, not in loud victories, but in quiet, courageous choices. Peace is not weakness. It's not a lack of emotion or ambition. It's not silence born from defeat. Peace is power, quiet, stable, and unshakable power. The kind of power that doesn't need to shout, doesn't need to win every argument, and doesn't need to prove itself through chaos. It's the strength that comes from mastering your own emotions, understanding your boundaries, and refusing to be ruled by external storms. When someone reaches that level of calm, they don't just survive life, they start directing it with clarity and purpose. Most people confuse noise with energy. They think being busy means being powerful, that reacting fast means being in control. But that's an illusion. Real power doesn't react, it responds, it waits, it observes. Peace gives you the space to see situations for what they are, not what your emotions want them to be. It gives you the wisdom to act from intention, not impulse. When you stop letting anger or fear make your choices, you begin to make decisions that actually serve your growth. Peace turns chaos into clarity. There's a reason why people who find peace seem unbothered by things that used to break them. They've stopped letting life push them around. They've learned that not every battle deserves their energy, and not every opinion deserves their attention. They understand that silence can speak louder than shouting, because when you're at peace, you don't need to convince anyone of your worth. You know it already, and that knowing gives you a strength that can't be taken away. Peace doesn't mean you never feel pain, it means you don't let pain control you. It's the discipline of choosing your response, even when your heart is heavy. It's realizing that your emotions are temporary, but your peace is sacred. When you protect it, you protect your entire life from unnecessary suffering. You stop giving energy to things that don't grow you. You stop chasing validation from people who can't even understand your path. You learn to detach from what drains you, not because you don't care, but because you finally do. Choosing peace is often misunderstood as surrender, but the truth is, it's the highest form of victory. When you no longer need to win arguments, when you no longer crave to be right, you've already transcended the battlefield. You've risen above it. Peace doesn't fight to dominate, it leads by presence. It's what gives your words weight, your actions meaning, and your life direction. People can feel peace when they're around it. It's magnetic, it doesn't demand attention, it commands respect without trying. To reach this kind of peace, you have to face yourself. You have to confront the chaos inside you before you can calm the chaos around you. Many people run from their thoughts, drown them in distractions, or bury them under noise. But peace requires stillness, and stillness forces truth to surface. It asks hard questions, Sri. What am I holding on to that's no longer serving me? Why do I react instead of reflect? What am I afraid of losing if I let go? When you sit with these questions long enough, you start to find freedom in your own understanding. Peace is not about isolating yourself from the world. It's about building a world inside you that nothing outside can destroy. It's about finding balance between giving and guarding, between listening and speaking, between action and surrender. Once you have that balance, your presence changes. You stop attracting chaos because you no longer resonate with it. You start seeing clearly who belongs in your life and who only disrupts it. You begin to create from a place of groundedness rather than desperation. The powerful thing about peace is that it's contagious. When you live in peace, you inspire others to do the same. You remind them that they don't have to live in constant defense mode, That softness doesn't mean weakness, and that calm doesn't mean complacency. Peace makes you a lighthouse in a storm. You don't have to move, shout, or prove yourself. You just stand tall and shine, and those who are lost will find their way through your example. People who live in peace are dangerous in the best way. They can't be manipulated, provoked, or controlled because their emotions are not up for sale. They know how to pause before reacting, how to think before speaking, and how to walk away before things get toxic. They've mastered the art of detachment, not as avoidance, but as wisdom. They understand that peace is not something you stumble upon, it's something you build, protect, and practice daily. Peace gives you clarity, and clarity gives you direction. When your mind isn't clouded with noise, you can hear the quiet guidance of your intuition. You can tell the difference between what's urgent and what's important. You can stop surviving on reaction and start living with purpose. Peace allows you to move slowly but effectively, to speak softly but impactfully, to live quietly but meaningfully. In the end, peace is the most powerful statement you can make in a world addicted to conflict. It's proof that you've evolved beyond needing chaos to feel alive. It's proof that you've learned to create harmony inside your own heart, no matter what's happening outside of it. Because when you find that inner calm, you don't just gain power, you become it. And once you become peace itself, no one can ever take it from you again. Loving yourself enough to walk away is one of the hardest lessons life can ever teach. It's not a lesson of pride, ego, or indifference. It's a lesson of self respect. It's the moment when you realize that staying in certain situations doesn't make you loyal, it makes you lost. Walking away isn't about quitting, it's about choosing yourself in a world that keeps asking you to choose everything else. It's not about rejecting people or love. It's about rejecting pain disguised as love, confusion disguised as connection, and comfort disguised as purpose. There comes a time when you've given so much of your energy, your heart, and your peace that there's nothing left to give without losing yourself. That's when the hardest truth reveals itself. Sometimes love isn't enough if it costs you your worth. Love that constantly asks you to shrink, to silence your needs, to bear what hurts and call it devotion. That's not love. That's survival dressed up as commitment. When you start loving yourself deeply, you stop surviving in spaces that drain your soul. You start valuing your peace more than the illusion of connection. Walking away doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you cared enough to stop the cycle of emotional exhaustion. You can't heal in the same place that keeps breaking you. You can't grow where you're constantly fighting for space to breathe. There's a sacred kind of strength in realizing that you deserve a love that doesn't make you question your own worth every day. You deserve to be understood without having to beg for clarity, to be seen without having to shout for attention, and to be loved without having to sacrifice your peace. Many people stay where they no longer belong because they fear loneliness. But there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Being alone is freedom. Being lonely is the absence of self connection. When you learn to love yourself, solitude becomes sacred. You begin to see that your own company can be healing, that silence isn't punishment, it's clarity. You learn to enjoy your own presence instead of chasing validation from others. You stop trying to fill the void with someone else's attention because you finally understand that your soul was never meant to be completed by another person. Walking away is often painful because your heart still remembers the good moments, but growth asks you to look beyond the highlight reel and see the full truth. If something constantly drains you, confuses you, or diminishes your light, it's not love, it's attachment. Attachment makes you hold on to what hurts because it feels familiar. Love makes you free. When you finally gather the courage to walk away, you begin to separate comfort from peace, habit from happiness, and fantasy from reality. That's when true healing begins. Loving yourself enough to walk away means understanding that closure doesn't always come from conversations. Sometimes closure is the quiet decision to stop explaining your worth to those who never intended to see it. It's choosing peace even when your heart still cares. It's trusting that letting go doesn't erase what was real. It simply honors what you learned. Every person, every experience, even the painful ones, teaches you something about who you are and what you deserve. And when you walk away, you're not leaving love behind. You're making room for a better version of it. When you love yourself enough to walk away, you stop chasing potential. You stop holding on to people's promises and start paying attention to their patterns. You stop accepting half efforts from those who only show up when it's convenient. You stop mistaking attention for affection. You begin to understand that real love is consistent, respectful, and peaceful. It doesn't make you anxious. It doesn't make you feel like you have to compete for your place in someone's life. When you love yourself enough, you stop begging to be chosen and start choosing yourself without guilt. Walking away is not a single act, it's a process. It's the unlearning of every belief that told you love means endurance at all costs. It's forgiving yourself for the times you stayed longer than you should have, for the times you accepted less because you were afraid of having nothing. It's learning to honor your heart even when it trembles, even when it doubts. Because the truth is, walking away doesn't make you cold, it makes you conscious. It means you've reached the point where peace matters more than promises, where self respect matters more than appearances, and where healing matters more than holding on. The moment you choose to walk away, something inside you changes. You start standing taller, breathing easier, and seeing the world differently. You begin to trust yourself again, to believe that you can rebuild, that you can attract better, that you can love without losing yourself. You learn that endings are not failures, they are beginnings in disguise. They clear the space for you to rediscover the version of yourself that existed before you forgot your worth. And that version of you, the one who is grounded, whole, and free, is who you were always meant to be. So love yourself enough to walk away from what no longer serves you. Love yourself enough to choose peace over chaos, growth over comfort, clarity over confusion. Love yourself enough to say, this may have been love once, but now it's time to love myself more, God. Because the moment you make that choice, the world around you begins to shift. You attract people and experiences that mirror your new standard. And in that peace, you'll realize something profound. You never really lost anything by walking away. You only return to yourself. Emotional independence is the moment you stop needing permission to feel whole. It's when your happiness, peace, and sense of worth no longer depend on how someone else treats you or how the world reacts to you. It's a kind of liberation that doesn't come from escaping people or relationships, but from mastering your inner world. When you are emotionally independent, you carry your peace wherever you go. You no longer live as a reflection of other people's moods, opinions, or validation. You live as a reflection of your truth. The truth is, most people spend their lives chasing emotional security outside themselves. They believe that love, recognition, or approval will fix what's broken inside. But that's an illusion. Emotional dependence is like building your home on shifting sand. It keeps you standing only until the next storm arrives. When you depend too much on others to make you feel enough, their silence becomes your sadness, their rejection becomes your wound, and their approval becomes your oxygen. That's not living, it's surviving on borrowed strength. Real freedom begins the moment you decide to build your emotional foundation from within. Being emotionally independent doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care without losing yourself. It means you can love deeply without clinging desperately. It's the balance between connection and sovereignty, where you can stand beside someone, not beneath them. You understand that you are complete even when you are alone, and that your happiness is your responsibility, not someone else's duty. When you reach that level of maturity, you no longer chase people to fill your emptiness. You fill your life with purpose, and people naturally align with your peace. The path to emotional independence often begins in heartbreak. Pain has a way of teaching you where you've given away too much of your power. You start to notice how much your mood used to depend on a message, a call, or someone's attention. You realize how fragile your self esteem became when it was tied to someone else's approval. And slowly, you start to reclaim what you gave away. You begin to build emotional muscles, the ability to self soothe, to reflect before reacting, to find comfort in your own silence. The same pain that once broke you becomes the soil where your strength grows. Emotional independence doesn't mean isolation. It's not about shutting people out. It's about creating healthy boundaries so that love can thrive without control. It's the understanding that relationships should be chosen, not clung to. When you are emotionally free, you can love someone without making them your lifeline. You can walk beside them without losing direction. You can disagree without losing connection. You can be vulnerable without being dependent. That's where real intimacy begins. Two complete people choosing each other, not two broken people trying to fix each other. Freedom of this kind gives you emotional clarity. You stop overanalyzing other people's behavior because you no longer take everything personally. You learn that how others act says more about their inner world than about your worth. You stop trying to control what's outside of you and focus instead on mastering your response to it. Emotional independence gives you the power to stay calm in the storm, to keep your balance when others lose theirs. You no longer need the world to be gentle for you to stay peaceful. You become your own anchor. One of the greatest signs of emotional independence is the ability to walk away with grace. When you no longer depend on someone for your sense of completeness, you can release what isn't meant for you without resentment. You understand that losing someone doesn't mean losing yourself. You trust that endings are not punishments, they're redirections toward your next chapter of peace. You stop begging for closure because closure comes from within. It's not about who stays, it's about who you become when they don't. To build emotional independence, you have to practice self awareness. You must learn to sit with your feelings without running from them. You have to face your fears of rejection, abandonment, and loneliness head on. That's how you grow stronger, not by avoiding pain, but by transforming it into understanding. You start asking better questions. What do I need right now? What am I expecting others to give me that I can give myself? What beliefs keep me tied to dependence? Over time, you start realizing that emotional independence is not about having control over everything, it's about having control over yourself. When you are emotionally free, your relationships change. You stop chasing people who make you doubt your value. You attract those who respect your boundaries, honor your growth, and love you without conditions. Your presence becomes peaceful because it's no longer rooted in fear or need. You can give love generously because it's coming from abundance, not emptiness. That's the kind of love that transforms lives, the kind that adds, not consumes. Emotional independence is the real freedom because it gives you stability in a world that constantly shifts. It allows you to find peace even when things don't go your way. You become the calm in your own storm, the light in your own darkness. You stop living as a reaction and start living as a creation. You learn that the greatest power is not in controlling others, but in mastering yourself. In the end, emotional independence is the quiet realization that everything you were seeking outside has always been within. You are your own source of peace, your own healer, your own foundation. When you finally grasp that truth, nothing can shake you. Not loss, not rejection, not uncertainty. Because freedom isn't about having everything go right, it's about being right within, no matter what happens around you. Protecting your energy is not selfish, it's sacred. It's the act of honoring your inner world in a society that constantly tries to drain it. It's the understanding that your energy is life itself, your focus, your peace, your creativity, your drive. Everything you do flows from it. And when it's scattered or stolen, you lose your ability to live intentionally. Protecting your energy means recognizing that not everyone deserves access to you, not every conversation deserves your response, and not every environment deserves your presence. It's about choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and purpose over distraction. Every day, life is asking for your energy. People pull on your attention. Devices demand your focus. Responsibilities consume your time, but very few things give energy back to you. And that's why protecting it becomes a sacred act of self preservation. You can't give from an empty heart. You can't create from a drained mind. You can't grow in an environment that constantly takes more than it gives. Protecting your energy is not about building walls, it's about building filters, knowing what nourishes you and what exhausts you, what lifts you and what lowers you. It's about choosing what deserves your power and what doesn't. Many people confuse being available with being kind. They think saying yes to everything means being a good person. But kindness that costs you your peace is not kindness, it's self betrayal. The world will take as much as you're willing to give, and if you don't draw boundaries, it will drain you completely. Protecting your energy means learning to say no with grace and without guilt. It means realizing that every time you say yes to something meaningless, you are saying no to something sacred. Your rest, your focus, your dreams, your healing. Boundaries are not barriers, they are bridges to balance. Protecting your energy also means being aware of the emotional environments you enter. Some people carry light while others carry chaos. You can love people deeply and still recognize that their energy doesn't align with yours. You don't have to hate them, judge them, or fight them. You simply don't have to match them. Protecting your energy means you no longer absorb every emotion around you. You observe it, understand it, and choose whether it deserves space in your spirit. This kind of emotional maturity saves you from unnecessary battles. You stop trying to fix everyone and start focusing on maintaining your peace. Your attention is the most valuable currency you have. Whatever you focus on grows stronger. If you focus on negativity, you feed it. If you focus on gratitude, you expand it. Protecting your energy means being intentional about what you consume, what you read, watch, listen to, and speak about. Words are vibrations, thoughts are frequencies. The things you surround yourself with shape your emotional climate. When you become selective about what enters your mind, your energy begins to rise. You stop being a victim of chaos and start being a creator of calm. Energy protection also happens through silence. Silence is not emptiness, it's a form of power. When you stop explaining yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you, you conserve energy. When you stop defending your worth to those who can't see it, you preserve peace. When you stop reacting to every provocation, you reclaim control. Silence teaches you that not every situation requires your energy. Sometimes withdrawal is the most powerful response. Peace doesn't always announce itself loudly, sometimes it whispers through your restraint. You must also protect your energy from your own thoughts. The most exhausting battles are often the ones you fight within yourself. Overthinking, self doubt, and guilt are emotional thieves that steal your strength. Protecting your energy means practicing awareness. It's catching yourself when you spiral into negativity and choosing to redirect your mind. It's forgiving yourself for past mistakes, releasing resentment, and learning to rest without feeling guilty. Your mind is a sacred space. Don't let your inner critic live there rent free. Protecting your energy is an act of self respect. It's saying, my peace matters. My mental clarity matters. My well being matters. It's choosing to rise above drama instead of diving into it. It's realizing that walking away from chaos doesn't mean weakness, it means wisdom. You learn that not everything deserves your reaction, and not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Some people feed your spirit while others feed off it. Knowing the difference is what keeps you strong. When you protect your energy, your life begins to transform. You attract peace because you live it. You attract respect because you embody it. The people who stay in your life will be those who honor your boundaries, appreciate your calm, and align with your growth. You stop chasing validation and start magnetizing connection. You stop running from exhaustion and start living from intention. Protecting your energy doesn't mean withdrawing from the world. It means engaging with it from a place of strength rather than depletion. It's the quiet confidence that says, I am responsible for how I feel. It's the daily practice of checking in with your spirit, asking yourself, does this feed me or drain me? And having the courage to act on the answer. It's understanding that your energy determines your reality. Guard it like the treasure it is. Because when your energy is protected, your mind becomes clear, your heart becomes lighter, and your path becomes visible. You begin to live from power, not pressure. You begin to create from peace, not pain. Protecting your energy is not about rejecting the world, it's about respecting yourself enough to move through it with grace, strength, and unwavering calm. It's one of the most sacred acts of self love you'll ever practice, and it will change everything. Healing is not weakness, it's the purest form of rebuilding, the process of piecing together your soul after life has scattered it. It's not about pretending you're fine or erasing what happened. Healing is the quiet, deliberate choice to face the pain, to understand it, and to grow through it. It's strength that doesn't shout. It's resilience that moves slowly but surely. Healing asks you to look at your wounds without shame and to see them not as signs of failure, but as proof that you survived. It's the art of rebuilding your foundation with wisdom instead of fear. The world often glorifies strength as being untouchable, unbothered, or unbreakable. But true strength is the opposite. It's the courage to admit that you've been hurt and the patience to mend what's broken. Healing takes more bravery than denial ever could. It asks you to sit in discomfort, to let emotions surface that you once buried, and to face truths you've avoided. It's the process of cleaning out your emotional wounds so they don't infect your future. That's not weakness, it's deep, transformative work. You're not fragile for needing time to heal, you're human for allowing it. There is a misconception that healing means returning to who you were before the pain, but you can never go back. The old version of you existed in a world that no longer fits. Healing isn't about returning, it's about reinventing. It's about becoming someone wiser, calmer, stronger, and more self aware. Every experience that once hurt you is now a teacher. Every tear that fell has watered your growth. You rebuild yourself not by erasing your scars, but by learning how to carry them with grace. Scars don't make you damage, they make you real. They're reminders of where you've been and what you've overcome. Healing requires patience because it's not a straight line. There are days when you'll feel whole again and days when you'll feel like you're back at the beginning. That's normal. Growth is not linear, it spirals. You revisit old wounds from new levels of awareness. Sometimes you'll think you've healed, and life will test that healing, not to punish you, but to show you how far you've come. Every time you respond with a little more peace and a little less pain, that's healing at work. It's not about perfection, it's about progress, one step at a time. In the process of healing, solitude becomes sacred. The silence that once felt heavy becomes a space where you finally hear your own voice again. You begin to understand your patterns, your triggers, and your truths. You learn to differentiate between what hurt you and what helped you. You start forgiving, not because others deserve it, but because you deserve freedom. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, it means releasing yourself from the emotional weight that no longer serves you. You stop living in the past and start building your future from a place of peace instead of pain. Healing also teaches you compassion. When you've faced your own darkness, you stop judging others so harshly. You understand that everyone is fighting battles you cannot see. Your heart softens, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. You realize that pain connects us all, and kindness becomes your new language. That's the beauty of healing. It doesn't just rebuild you, it transforms how you see the world. You start valuing stillness, authenticity, and gentleness in a way that the old you never could. But healing is not passive, it's an act of power. It's choosing to no longer be defined by what broke you. It's taking back control of your story. Pain might have written one chapter, but healing writes the rest. It's the decision to rebuild with intention, to set boundaries, to choose peace, to create a life that feels safe and honest. Healing teaches you to stop seeking closure from others and start finding it within yourself. You realize that no apology can undo the past, but your growth can redefine it. There will be moments when healing feels lonely. That's because rebuilding requires focus, and not everyone will understand your silence. Some will mistake your withdrawal for weakness, but that solitude is your sanctuary. It's where you recharge, realign, and reconnect with who you truly are. You start seeing that you no longer need to prove your pain or your progress to anyone. Healing is personal. It's between you and your soul. No one else needs to validate it. And as you rebuild, something beautiful happens. You begin to trust life again. You stop fearing new beginnings. You stop expecting pain at every corner. You start opening your heart, not because you forgot what hurt you, but because you learned that you can survive it. Healing gives you back your courage. You begin to create from peace, love from strength, and live with intention. You start realizing that every ending was preparing you for a better version of yourself. Healing is not weakness, it's rebirth. It's standing in the mirror after everything you've been through and saying, I'm still here. It's realizing that survival was the first step, but thriving is the next. It's learning to see beauty in the cracks and strength in the scars. Healing is rebuilding your life on truth instead of fear, on growth instead of grief. It's not about forgetting the pain, it's about transforming it into purpose. And when you finally rebuild yourself from that place, you don't just rise, you rise wiser, softer, and stronger than ever before. Peace creates a new kind of strength, one that doesn't roar, demand, or dominate, but stands still in calm certainty. It's the strength that doesn't need to control everything around it because it has already mastered what lies within. It's quiet but powerful, humble but unshakable. When you discover peace within yourself, you no longer rely on the world to be gentle for you to feel balance. You become the balance. That is the essence of true strength, not the ability to fight every battle, but the wisdom to know which ones are worth fighting and the calm to walk away from the rest. In a world that celebrates noise and confusion, peace is a rare form of rebellion. It's easy to be pulled into the chaos of opinions, competition, and comparison. The loudest voices often dominate the space, and everyone is busy proving their worth. But peace doesn't compete, it simply exists. It doesn't chase validation because it already understands its value. The person who moves through life with peace carries an invisible power that can't be shaken by external storms. This strength is not about having control over others. It's about having control over your reactions, your emotions, and your energy. Peace gives you clarity, and clarity gives you power. When your mind is calm, your decisions become intentional instead of impulsive. You stop wasting energy reacting to every distraction or provocation. You begin to see through the noise, to recognize what truly matters. A peaceful mind doesn't rush, it doesn't panic, it listens, it observes, and then it acts with purpose. That's where the new strength comes from, knowing that you don't need to respond to everything. You no longer allow chaos to dictate your mood or your movement. You begin to lead your life from stillness, and that stillness becomes your greatest form of authority. This kind of strength is not born overnight. It's built through experiences that tested you, hurt you, and forced you to grow. You learn peace the hard way. By losing it, you learn it through heartbreak, betrayal, loss, and disappointment. But over time, you begin to understand that peace is not something you find after the storm, it's something you cultivate in the middle of it. You stop seeking peace in the absence of problems and start finding it in your ability to remain centered despite them. You begin to rebuild yourself not around what happened, but around who you're becoming. When you live in peace, your energy changes. You stop matching people's chaos and start maintaining your composure. You no longer mirror aggression, gossip, or negativity. You realize that not everything deserves a reaction, and not everyone deserves access to your emotions. Peace gives you emotional intelligence, the ability to rise above pettiness and stay grounded in self control. You begin to operate on a higher frequency where anger, envy, and insecurity can no longer reach you. You become unbothered, not because you don't care, but because you've learned to care about your peace more than your pride. The strength born from peace is quiet confidence. It doesn't need to prove its worth or force its presence. It moves with assurance, speaks with intention, and acts with integrity. This strength knows that walking away is not weakness, that silence can be louder than shouting, and that calmness can defeat chaos. Peaceful strength is steady. It doesn't waver with circumstances. It doesn't collapse under pressure because it's rooted in something deeper than emotion. It's rooted in wisdom, acceptance, and faith. You trust the process even when you can't control it. You trust yourself even when the world doubts you. When peace becomes your foundation, success feels different. You no longer chase it from a place of fear or insecurity. You move with purpose instead of pressure. You understand that true success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you can remain whole no matter what life throws at you. Peace allows you to create without comparison, to give without resentment, and to lead without ego. You start prioritizing harmony over recognition and fulfillment over achievement. You begin to measure your life not by how loud it is, but by how aligned it feels. This new kind of strength also makes you compassionate because once you've found peace, you no longer project pain. You stop judging others for their chaos because you recognize your past self in them. You start responding with empathy instead of anger. You stop feeding drama and start nurturing understanding. Peace teaches you that strength doesn't come from dominating others, it comes from mastering yourself. You no longer see life as a competition, but as a balance of giving, growing, and letting go. Peace doesn't make you passive, it makes you powerful in a different way. It gives you the discipline to pause before reacting, the patience to wait for clarity, and the confidence to move only when it feels right. It allows you to handle life with grace, to walk away with dignity, and to stand firm with faith. You realize that no matter what happens, you can remain whole because your peace comes from within, not from circumstances or people. When you finally understand that peace is your greatest power, you stop trading it for temporary emotions. You protect it fiercely. You prioritize it over popularity, over being right, over being understood. You learn that the strongest person in the room is not the loudest, it's the calm one, the one who can breathe through conflict, who can listen without reacting, and who can stay centered in a world that thrives on distraction. Peace creates a new kind of strength, the kind that cannot be taken, shaken, or broken. It's the strength that allows you to move through life with quiet confidence and unwavering grace. It's the strength that turns pain into purpose, noise into wisdom, and chaos into calm. And when you live from that peace, you don't just survive, you rise grounded and powerful in a way the world can't ignore.